Hey everyone, my name's Abby and welcome to the Brown and Bougie podcast, where I'm keeping it raw, real and relatable. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Brown and Bougie podcast. Welcome to 2021 peeps. Happy New Year. I hope this year brings us a lot more happiness, a lot more joy, and I know it's tough times for everybody, but things will get better, and I'm hoping and praying for all of us that it will. This year, for those who know, I'm supposed to be getting married, and I say supposed to because actually I was supposed to get married last year as well, but COVID happened, so we decided to postpone to late summer this year. So I guess time will tell. Let's see how we go. So it's actually really weird because when we originally planned our, I was going to say original wedding, I don't know, you know what I mean, right? Like, I guess wedding 1.0, which didn't really happen. It happened so quickly that there was loads of things I actually didn't really think about. And actually now I have time, I've sort of given myself, the opportunity to think about it. And one of those is my name. And it's really weird, you might be like, oh, what's so complicated, whatever it is. But being a person who is Tamil and also being someone who was brought up in the Western world, the name change conversation, the thought process is quite complicated. It's actually really funny because I have a 9-letter surname. I'm not going to tell you what because, I have a 9-letter surname, and loads of people say to me, oh, but, so I'll tell them my surname, and they're like, oh, but you said you were Tamil. And I was like, yeah. And they were like, I thought Tamil people have long names. And I was like, am I supposed to be offended by this? Like, I know Tamil people have long names, but you can't be like, I'm not Tamil. Like, relax yourself, okay? It's not that big of a dramatic deal. But it's actually really interesting because, around the world, generally Tamil people do have really long names. For different reasons. For some people, there's a reason for why your parents named you the name that they named you, right? For some people, it might be, like for example, for me, my name is a variation of a goddess's name, and there are reasons for why my mum chose that. She felt like a connection when she was pregnant with me with this god, and she was just like, oh, I'm definitely gonna like name my kid one of those gods' names. And there's so many different reasons and whatever it is, and I think it's quite unfortunate. And actually I used to do this all the time, and I was very like, I was trying to change my name so people in the Western world could easily pronounce it. I'm not ashamed. I'm not proud of it now. I'm not proud of it now at all. I am actually quite ashamed of myself for doing that. But I was, I really wanted to fit in. And, as a kid, as most of us were, we were very confused because, we would come home and we had this whole different culture to when we went to school, and there's a whole different culture, even the way we eat, for example, if you're brown, you tend to eat with your hand. Whereas when you're going to school, you're talking knife and fork and things like that. And it's such a big cultural shock, especially when you're growing up as a child. And, obviously our parents, they fled the war, for the Tamil people anyway, but they left in very, very, very like complicated circumstances, and they've just come to the country that we're currently in now. And it's just one of those things that, like, because they were trying to also adapt to it, and as a kid you're trying to look up to your parents and they're confused and therefore you're confused, and it's just this whole thing. And the more I grew up, the more and more I was just like, do you know what? No, people should be saying my name correctly. So now when someone says, because my full name isn't Abby, just in case. I mean, I don't think I know any Tamil person who's just called Abby. But when people used to say my name incorrectly, I used to never correct them. But now I will openly correct them, and I would say, hey, by the way, that's not how you say my name. This is how you say my name. And it's weird because in Tamil, there are 247 letters in the alphabet, and therefore every letter, there is a slight difference in the sound. So if you are learning Tamil or Tamil or anything about it, there are 2 r sounds, there are 3 l sounds, there are 3 n sounds, and technically you need to really understand the difference. And there's that very, very small difference that people struggle with. And like, as in, people call me Abby, that's fine, but in my house my name is Abby, and people be like, but there's a sound, and I was like, but you're saying an a sound, and I know that doesn't sound that different, but an and an a is very, very different. So I think, like, what I'm trying to get at this point is the fact that we should all not be ashamed. And I think, if someone says your name incorrectly, be proud of who you are and say to them, look, no, that's not how you spell my name. Unfortunately, some of us have randomly weird ass spellings because our parents, looked at things like numerology and star signs and all of that, stuff. But be proud of who you are and stick to your roots, because you should not be ashamed to have a long name. You should be proud the fact that you are Tamil and, you are representing a race. You are representing all of those things. So be proud of who you are. And, if anyone says to you, oh, this is how you are, and if, for example, like, I've had people who'd be like, oh, I'm just going to call you this because it's easier. And, I don't think I'm going to remember that. So is it okay if I call you this? Can I just call you A because it's just easier for me to remember that than your full name? And I'm like, no, that's like me saying to you that, oh, your name's Rachel, but you know what? I'm going to call you Phoebe. I don't know why did I quote Friends there? I do not know. But literally, like, you're basically changing someone's name. So don't let people do that. It doesn't matter who they are. And for example, I've even met Tamil people who do that to you. And, we've got to move away from that because we should be proud of who we are. So I think one piece of a resource that I found online recently was from Ambu London. Says ANPU London. Shout outs to him. But literally, he did this post, how to respect my ethnic name. And honestly, it was one of the most informative pieces I had ever heard. And I actually had sent it out to my work colleagues and things like that, to be like, guys, we've got to, share this amongst, like, not just the BAME network, but also, everybody else. And actually, we should all be proud of who we are. And if you want to shorten your name, I mean, I did the same thing. If you want to shorten your name, that's completely your choice to make. However, if you feel like someone is saying your name wrong, correct them. There is no harm. It's your name, it's your identity. You are completely entitled to do that. Anyways, getting sidetracked as always, but I am in this whole kerfuffle of what do I do when I change my name. And it might not be a big deal for some people, but this is my identity, right? Like the name that I was born with, that, that's the name I've had for the last 26 years. And, the name that I'm going to change my name to, if I choose to, is the name that I'm going to die with. And it's going to be, I'm hoping, much longer than 25, 26 years. So it's just one of those things that there's a lot to think about and stuff. I know that as a woman, it is my name. I know it's my right. I know I don't have to change it if I don't want to. However, there are loads of pros and cons to changing your name to something or whatever it is. So, the option is I can just keep my name the same. If I do that, my kids and my husband will have, or my husband-to-be will have different names. That's, as much as I'm not really technically thinking about kids right now in this moment of time, it's something I've got to consider. But the other thing is there is a lot of complications when it comes to Tamil traditions. So I'm going to try and shorten this as much as possible. But for those people who don't know, because I do know Tamil people aren't even aware of this, if you are born a man in Sri Lanka and you are Tamil, your dad's name is your forename. They don't have first names and surnames in Sri Lanka. They just had forenames and last names, because your forename is actually your dad's name, and then your actual given name, like the name that your parents name you, is actually your last name. So if it would always be S. whoever. And if you are a girl, you are born, your actual given name is your forename, which is normal, and then your dad's actual first name is your surname. So that means in that case, if you think about it, everyone has the same surname. And if I marry into a family, my husband's first name is traditionally supposed to be my surname. So there's a lot of complications. And the thing is, people will be like, oh, that's so weird. And I was like, it's actually not weird. It's actually normal in Sri Lanka. So if you're in Sri Lanka and there's no such thing as Tamil family names, that doesn't exist. So if you go to Sri Lanka and be like, oh, I'm going to carry down, technically your father-in-law's name, like as a woman, if I take my father-in-law's name as my surname, people in Sri Lanka will be like, why are you doing that? That's so weird. Like, that's not tradition. But here, everyone will be like, and, I've talked about this with, my in-laws, my friends, whatever, and everyone will be like, oh, that's so weird. And I'm like, well, it's not technically, it's just because it's different to what we are used to. So I guess the good thing about Tamil traditions is, there is no such thing as, a family name that gets carried down and, everyone is their own identity and whatever it is. But I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, right? So it's just one of those things. I think, I've got more time to make my mind up, and, I've got to listen. I know it sounds really weird, but I've got to, listen to the rhyme. Does it go well together? I actually like the fact that Tamil people have long names, because it just, goes really well with the fact, like, it just, but yeah, it's really interesting when you think about, name changing and, the way Tamil tradition works in terms of the names and things like that. And, you'll have, back in the day, people used to have 11, 12, 13 kids, and, they used to have rhyming names or similar names or whatever it was. So it's just really interesting. And yeah, my main point is, I think, embrace your identity, embrace who you are, embrace your roots, embrace all of that stuff. Because, sometimes I do worry that, at one point, our culture is going to die. And it's so sad to think about it. And, I don't want to be negative, but, it is our responsibility as the generation now to keep that culture, alive, whether that be through food, whether that be through the language, whether that be through religion, culture, whatever it is our responsibility to keep your identity alive and ready. And, people have to know who we are. So yeah, I just thought I'll just share that with you. So for my first tune of the day / my tutor session for 2021, I'm going to throw it back to one of my favorite all-time Ghana Kuttu, Dabban Kuttu songs, which is Aanana Naal Mudalai. Literally one of my favorite songs of all times. Like, literally the beat just gets you going, and I just wanted to start off this year with a bit upbeat and just, like, want to get up and dance, because as much as we're all going through our own stuff right now, it is hard, and I find a lot of happiness in music. And yeah, so I hope you enjoy this banger of the track. And yeah, this is literally childhood all over again. Thanks again for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. To catch all the latest from me, you can follow me on Instagram at the Brown and Bougie Podcast. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.
யாரையும் நினைச்சதில்ல மாமா, நான் உங்களுக்கு வாக்கப்பட ஆசைப்பட்டே வேணான்னு சொல்லுறீங்களே, சும்மா வெறும் வாயை மெல்லுறீங்களே. அடியில் கட்டிக்கிட்டா சித்திரைக்கு புள்ள வரும். ஆகாது ஆகாது மச்சானே, இது தோதான தை மாசம் மச்சானே. ஆகாது ஆகாது மச்சானே, இது தோதான தை மாசம் மச்சானே.
உன்னை நான் கட்டி கொள்ள எப்பவும் நினைச்சதில்ல, கல்ல கட்டி தண்ணிக்குள்ள முன்புறவன் யாரும் இல்ல. வேணாண்டி விட்டு விடடி, நான் தவிச்சாக்கா தண்ணி புடுடி. தாலி கட்டி கூடிக்கிட்டா சாமி குத்தங்காது முன்னு மேலூரு குறிகாரன் சொன்னாண்டி. அடி கண்ணாள நமக்குள்ள வேணாண்டி, மேலூரு குறிகாரன் சொன்னாண்டி. அடி கண்ணாள நமக்குள்ள வேணாண்டி.
ஆளான நாள் முதல்ல யாரையும் நினைச்சதில்ல மாமா, நான் உங்களுக்கு வாக்கப்பட ஆசைப்பட்டேன். புல்லறுக்க போகையில புல்ல நுனி தண்ணியில உன் முகத்தை பார்த்து புட்டு ஊடு வந்து சேர்ந்து புட்டு. என் பாசம் தெரியாது மாமா, இது அனுமாரு நெஞ்சில ராமா. என் பாசம் தெரியாது மாமா, இது அனுமாரு நெஞ்சில ராமா.
கொல்லையில மாங்கா மரம் கொத்து கொத்த காட்சி இருக்கு. காவக்காரன் தூங்கையில கையெருட்டி மாம்பழத்தை அறியாம பறிச்சாத்தா இனிக்கும். அடியானிற் புள்ள கடிச்சாத்தா ருசிக்கும். அறியாம பறிச்சாத்தா இனிக்கும். அடியானிற் புள்ள கடிச்சாத்தா ருசிக்கும்.
பூவெடுத்து மாலை கட்டி ராசா, நான் கூடு கட்டி குடியிருக்கேன் ராசா.
எம்மா உன்ன நான் கட்டிக்குள்ள எப்பவும் நினைச்சதில்ல கல்ல கட்டி தண்ணிக்குள்ள முங்குறவன் யாரும் இல்ல காளக்கண்ணு வாங்கி கட்டி பால் கறக்க ஆசைப்பட்டேன் கோழி குஞ்சு குட்டி போட கோயிலுக்கு நெந்துகிட்டேன் முட்டாளா இருக்கேடி மானே அடி ஒட்டாதே என் வாழ்க்கைதானே ரொம்ப முட்டாளா இருக்கேடி மானே அடி ஒட்டாதே என் வாழ்க்கைதானே
ஒட்டை கொத்த சண்டையினா ஓடி போற ஆம்பள நீ செத்து போன பாம்ப பார்த்து சத்தம் போட்ட வீரனும் நீ
ஏய்.
மட்டும் சரிதானா மாமா என்ன பத்தா நீ பாரு மாமா நீ மட்டும் சரிதானா மாமா என்ன பத்தா நீ பாரு மாமா
ஓ வாய கொஞ்சம் மூடிக்கடி வார ஆம்பளதா வீரத்தை நீ பாரு நான் நினைச்சா மலைய வளப்பே வார நான் வாரேன்
மச்சான் ஆளான நாள் முதல்ல யாரையும் நினைச்சதில்ல
உன்னை நான் கட்டிக்குள்ள எப்பவும் நினைச்சதில்ல
வேண்டான்னு சொல்லுறீங்களே
அடி வேணாண்டி விட்டு விடடி தாலி கட்டி கூடிக்கிட்டா சாமி குத்தங்காகுமடி
ஆகாது ஆகாது மச்சானே
அடி கண்ணாளா நமக்குள்ள வேணாண்டி
ஆகாது ஆகாது மச்சானே
அடி கண்ணாளா நமக்குள்ள வேணாண்டி